Let's see. What should I do? Supposed to do a collaboration with Ara today. Trying to figure out what would be a good... She said I could pick anything I wanted off of her list. I need some munch on. You know what? I don't think this book's going to help me. I have a better idea. Let's do popcorn. Greetings, and just in order for me to be able to do the popcorn, I'm going to have to make a pot first. So I'm using a this copper wire here is going to be the handle, and the pot itself is going to be a 3/4 inch end cap, copper end cap, and I'm going to solder the two together. And those are magnets, and I forget who it was, but somebody had suggested using a cast iron skillet, which is what I'm using here when I do my soldering, so that it doesn't hurt my my mat that got warped the last time I tried this. But anyway, I'm taking the copper wire and bending it around some round nose pliers that I have to make a handle. Now, as you will see, actually, I'm not sure if I left it in or not. I did have an oopsie that I did later on when I actually used the pot, but I found out that the solder does not hold the handle on when it's heated. I need to figure out a different way of securing the handle to the pot for future use if I ever decide to do this again. But if you just want it for decoration, this actually works very, very well for making a pot. So anyway, 3/4 inch pot would be equivalent to about a 9-inch pot in 1/12 scale. And I've got those two magnets there to hold it on the skillet, to hold that end cap there so it doesn't spin while I'm soldering. And anyway, all I do is just heat up the solder, and I'm heating up the end of the wire at the same time. I put some flux on there, as you may have noticed, to help it flow a little bit better, and it's just a matter of waiting for that to cool, which it does very quickly, and there's the copper pot. Very, very simple. And I'm gonna spray some water on it here just in just a minute to cool it down a little bit, and you'll now this, what I'm doing here is it's called a pickle solution, is what they call it. And it's basically vinegar and salt, as you can see in the side there. You don't want to use anything steel or any other metal besides copper or brass or bronze in this solution, otherwise it'll make it non-effective, and it'll also eat away at anything steel. And basically, you just warm up the solution, which I've got a little cup heater that I put my coffee on, that I set the jar on, and I leave it in there for about 5 minutes or so, and it just basically takes away all the tarnish and whatnot. I just put it in an old pickle jar, coincidentally. But it does a really good job at cleaning anything copper or brass or bronze to a really nice shine. Now what I'm doing is I made this mold. It's a foam board and these little pieces of wood that I've cut, and I put them on some foam board, glued them down, and now what I'm doing here is I've got some sand, some real fine sand that I'm pouring into the mold. I'm going to be making a silicone mold of those pieces of wood there. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be making bricks. And so I put the sand in there to figure out how much silicone I'm going to need. And then I've got this tub here that it's kitty treats that I pour the sand into, and then I've already made a mark because I've already done this. I just forgot to record it, so I'm doing this again. But I just take a pen and I make a little mark on the side, and I just pour the sand back in. Now this is the silicone I'm using here, and it's by weight, so I've got a little scale there, and you basically pour in the amount that up to the line that I need, which I poured just a little bit too much, but that's okay. More is better than not enough. And then I add the catalyst to it by weight. It's a 10-to-1, I think is what it was. And then I just stir that in. You'll see me later, I think, wearing a glove. I actually sprained my wrist stirring this, so if you do this, be careful. You're supposed to stir it till it's nice and no more pink left. But anyway, poured that into the mold, and then I just shook out all the bubbles and whatnot. And I've got a little quasi vacuum chamber that I made, and to help get rid of some more of the bubbles. Then I let it sit for 24 hours to cure, and basically take it apart, and I've got a mold for bricks. And then what I'll do is I'll make using plaster of Paris to make the bricks with. And I've already made some when you see me making these here in a minute. But I was trying different ways to make them red bricks. And so what you'll see me doing here in a minute is this is the cup I'm going to use to put the sand in, I actually filled up those holes with sand again to see how much of the plaster of Paris I was going to need to fill it up, and then I added just a little bit extra. And I'm just what I'm doing is I figured out that I need 30 grams of plaster of Paris and 25 grams of water to have enough to make all of the bricks without having a lot left over. But here I'm adding some acrylic paint to try and make it red, just to see how it would do, and that ended up not working very well. The red bricks that you do see later on, I have some I forget what the company is called. It's like a tint. I've used it before. That was like a red tint for wood, and that worked really good, but it used like half a bottle of it, and it's really expensive. So I ended up having pink bricks and white bricks and red bricks, and for what you're about to see here in a little bit. Anyway, I poured the plaster of Paris into the mold and let that dry. It took about an hour or so for it to dry well enough to be able to take off, and then I would let them. And I had a little bit of extra left over, so I put them in some extra molds that I had just to use them up. Made some wings and a little owl type thing. But anyway, after I made the bricks, I let them air dry overnight so that they'd be nice and dry. But there you can see some white bricks and red bricks that I had made. And actually, the red bricks that are in there actually ended up bleeding onto the white ones and whatnot, and that's why you see all the splotches. So anyway, I've got here a 4 by 4 inch square piece of wood, which later on I didn't show it, but you'll see I've got a piece of cork that I put underneath it because this piece of wood, excuse me, started warping really, really bad when I started gluing things onto it. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a brick oven, and I'm just using PVA glue to glue it down to that piece of wood for a base. And I have actually plans later on. I'm going to take this little brick oven and decorate the base around it and put it into my steampunk conservatory, so it'll actually be part of the scene. But I didn't do that in this video. So here I am, I'm just laying out bricks. And if you can see over on the far right hand side, there's a circle, there's a little tub. It looks like a votive candle. Well, it's got a piece of cotton ball in it, and that'll be the flame. I'll put denatured alcohol into that. Now it's up in the top right corner. But anyway, I will put denatured alcohol into that and use that for the fire in this brick oven. And I guess it just gets too hot, and you'll see later on that my pot will be missing a handle, and I have to use pliers to move it around. But anyway, you'll see that later on. Excuse me. So anyway, here I am. This is just going to be a sped up of me building a little brick oven. And if you see over on the left side, the little grid pattern, that's a drain cover for a sink that I've kind of flattened out the tabs for it, and that'll be the grate that goes above the fire. And there I am putting a little weight on there just to keep it from warping while I'm building this. And the PVA glue actually worked really, really well for holding these bricks together. I tried different things and trying to glue them together, and this seemed to work the best. I tried super glue too, but I didn't want to heat the super glue up in case of fumes or anything like that, and so I just went with PVA glue. I don't intend to use this all the time, so I'm not worried about, you know, the heat affecting the glue and it falling apart. It's just a one-time thing you'll see here. In order to cut the smaller bricks that I need for this, like that last one that I just put down, the little half brick, I just took a razor blade knife and it cut right through it. It was really easy. I suggest though that if you want to do something like this and cut bricks, I suggest cutting the bricks before they completely dry. It's a lot easier. Otherwise they may crumble. Like you can see over on the left side, there's a few that kind of crumbled up a little bit. There's a lot of dust and whatnot, so I suggest cutting them. Or if you want to make a mold of your own and make some half brick molds too. So anyway, here I am just putting the rest of it together real quick. Now there's the heater. This is going to be in real time, like it says down at the bottom. I just wanted to show how quickly water boils. I'm started the flame. You really can't see the flame with a denatured alcohol. I would just put my hand over it to make sure it was lit, and yeah, it was lit. Actually, I almost burned myself one time. But anyway, ignore the 1 on the elapsed timer. time lapse up there at the top, but you can see real time how long it takes for water to boil in this little pot. Well, I've got this here while we're waiting. I just want to thank Ara for doing this collaboration with me. This was a fun one. I had this in mind for a long time to do something like this anyway, and when she asked me if I wanted to do a collaboration, I said yes, and so this is doing a collaboration with her is always fun anyway. Collaboration with anybody, and if anybody wants to do a collaboration, I'll be glad to do a collaboration with them. These are fun. I like doing these. But anyway, the water is almost about to boil. You'll see here in a minute. But I know we haven't really seen popcorn yet, but you're about to. I'm sure many of you have probably already guessed what it is, and probably may even know what I'm about to do. You can see there, a minute and a half is all it took for water to boil on this. Here I'm just blowing out the flame. And I actually end up spilling the water when I set it down. Anyway, I'm going to be using this organic amaranth. Organic it doesn't have to be, but that's the kind I got. Amaranth seeds, it's a ancient grain, and it's really important that when you put the pot on, you let it get hot before you do what I'm about to do. Anyway, you just want to fill a little bit on the bottom with the amaranth, which looks like little tiny baby popcorns, and in about less than 20 seconds they start to pop. So there's my popcorn. And if my handle was still on there, you'd be able to see it fell off, but you can shake it around and whatnot. So I just got to take my pliers and kind of shake it around a little bit so they don't burn. And it's like I say, it's really important that you heat up the pot before you put the amaranth in, because if you put the amaranth in and put it over the fire, it will actually burn before it pops. So it needs to be really, really hot. So anyway, I have this little copper bowl that I made, and I'm just pouring the popcorn onto it. Hope this was somewhat entertaining and informative, and this was really, really fun. I can't wait to do another one of these. Anyway, there's my miniature popcorn. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, have a better day, as I always say.